So in this next session, we're going to find out about another really useful support for you as students. We've just heard about your tutor, but the second most popular point of contact is the student support team, who actually open a lot more hours than a tutor technically might be, and have a whole range of support. But so many students don't know about the sorts of things that you guys do. David Pilling is a senior advisor in the STEM student support team, and you've been with us for 2 years, and Emily Wood is a senior advisor on the computing and IT systems. Now, student support teams, there are a number of different ones at the Open University, but tell us, typically, what do they do and what can students expect?
Well, I think very broadly speaking, we're there as a point of contact for students. We work to off the IAG framework, information, advice and guidance. So we're there to respond to student needs. So if a student needs information, we're set up to do that. If they require advice or even guidance, if they're needing some help with making decisions or planning, or if they're experiencing any sort of problem that can get in the way of their studies, we're there to help them find the answer.
Brilliant. Now, they can just phone one of you guys and then they'll get sort of put through to the right sort of person depending on the nature of the inquiry. But you mentioned something there that I'd really like to pick up on, because we were talking earlier about, you know, what if I'm not on the right course, the right module? Do the student support team help with that sort of thing?
Yeah, we do. We help with all kinds of things. So as Dave said, you know, if you've got a problem or a question or something you're just wondering about, I mean, often calling us up and just having a chat with us about it is enough to kind of clear your thoughts, or focus your thoughts. So qualifications and things, it's something that students need to reflect on throughout their studies. So they'll have done their research at the beginning, chosen a qualification. Sometimes they will start, you know, they'll start with the best of intentions. For whatever reason, it's not for them. They may want to change pathway, change qualification completely, and that's, you know, perfectly normal. You need to get the right advice to decide whether you're doing the right thing. So yeah, we can help. So yeah.
Brilliant. Now, we asked people before who'd been in touch with their tutor, and it was over half who had. But now only 33% said that they've been in touch with their student support team, which I think is probably a fairly common thing. By the way, also, if you could fill out our word cloud with 1, 2 or 3 things, but if you can't think of the second or third, just put a full stop in, of the things that you think the student support team could help you with. So a lot of people haven't been in touch, and possibly that's because they don't necessarily know everything that's on offer, or maybe they don't have any questions right at this moment in time.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. I mean, some students, you know, they know, you know, they feel like they're getting along well. They don't have a need to kind of contact us, or they think they don't have a need to contact us. Sometimes just giving us a call just to have a conversation about how you plan your studies, your approach to your studies, to make sure that you understand all the different aspects. My colleague has a really good metaphor for it. He says, you know, your studies is like a huge puzzle, and you need to understand all of the different pieces. And actually, it's a difficult thing to do without knowing what all of those pieces are. And
if you don't know what you don't know, it's hard to then know how to ask for help, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. So sometimes just giving us a call if you're not quite sure. You know, there's never a silly question.
No, absolutely. I mean, broadly speaking, as we were saying before, the tutor is the point of contact for any academic-related things, specifically to do with the module. But the student support team, they've got access to so many other things, so they can talk about the implications of if things are getting difficult and you might be thinking about changing your study intentions or study intensity. There's all sorts of things that you can cover.
Absolutely. I mean, certainly. I think trying to understand where the student support fits in the journey of a study, alongside someone like your tutor or the academic side of things, that your tutor absolutely is the first point of call. If you're having any difficulty with the content, with the module, but that's not the only thing that you can come up against in the journey of study. It could be maybe what your next module is going to be, or maybe like Emily said, maybe the qualification's not working out as what you thought it was, and come and talk to us. But things happen as well, don't they, in life, and unexpected things happen. I think people get ill and circumstances change, and that can have a big influence on what you're doing with your studies and the way you feel about your studies. And that's not necessarily, I mean, a tutor would be really, you know, warm and responsive to those sort of things, but really when it's a bit wider than the actual content of the module, and it's more about your studying in general, we're here to have that sort of conversation to help find the best next step, I suppose.
Because I think you mentioned the information and advice, and this really taps into that guidance, because I can see how, you know, students would think, oh, I need to find out what's in this module, or hey, I hadn't recognised there was statistics in the psychology programme, etc. You know, that's really obvious. But the thing I think that most students could really benefit from calling you guys up is that guidance. Sometimes just having that space to say, this is a big problem and actually I'm not sure what the right thing is. Maybe keeping going is the right thing for me, maybe it's not. You know, that might depend on how things are funded, it might depend on how long the potential problem might be there for. And that guidance and space is so valuable, because you guys are trained in supporting students to really focus on not what's right for the university, but what's right for that particular person at that moment.
The number of students we speak to, and we're generally in awe of our students, the number of students we speak to who sort of say, you know, it could be a problem with the module, they could be struggling with the content, or it could be something's happened in their lives that understandably makes focusing on study very difficult. And the number of people who say, you know, I've been thinking about calling you for weeks, I've been so worried, and then they talk to us and they're really relieved. Or they're worried about the implications of saying, you know, I don't think I'm succeeding with this, I'm struggling. We are not here, and the tutors aren't here to tell you off, to wag their finger. You know, we're here to help you, and actually we're really, really sympathetic to the fact that our students work so incredibly hard. They have all of these other things going on, then life throws things at you. So, you know, calling us, we can probably, you know, highlight this to you and actually help you move forward positively.
And sometimes externalising those things can be one way of moving forward. Well, let's see what people said at home, because we asked about things that they think the SST could help with. So let's see what you had to say. Oh, excellent. Some really good points here I'd like to pick up on. So time will tell, time management, the next module, advising tutors, study management, changing modules, point me to help, extensions, stress, worries, who to turn to, not sure yet, personal support coming through. But this DSA eligibility and advice on DG, we know that a lot of students who study with the Open University study with us because of certain additional requirements that they may have. Some of those can be physical and some of those can be non-physical. But it's very, very important to get the support that they need. And one of the most important things that you guys will help with is things like having something on your record that will then help your tutor support you in your studies and also help you with getting alternative formats and extra support. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, I think it's times are changing in a really positive way at the moment. People are talking about health issues much more openly, particularly mental health issues. And certainly the OU's been a great institution for people with disabilities or maybe any sort of condition that's preventing them going to a physical university. But it's really important that we know about these things, and at some point in almost everybody's lives, mental health does, you know, is challenged, and I think the more willing a student is to come and talk to us, the better, because adjustments can be made along the way, whether that's just a temporary thing, just to help someone through a period they're going through, or it's a fix that goes across the whole qualification, where you, like you say, alternative formats or even adjustments with exams. I think we're so used to talking about it. We do it on a daily basis with students, and yet we do still speak to students who maybe are towards the end of a qualification, and then they reach a point where they do tell us about some condition or illness that they've had for a while, and they've just not told us, and they've been struggling in private and in secret, and maybe they've been reluctant because they felt some sort of stigma, or and that's a shame, because we are completely set up to have that discussion and to help make adjustments.
Now, talk us through, in particular, the Disabled Students Allowance, the DSA, and also how you can support students with funding and things like that. Because whilst unfortunately you can't do everything for people, you know a lot of people in the know, and you know the systems and the processes, don't you?
Yeah, that's it. So even though, I mean, on sort of specifically, we have knowledge about specific qualifications and that sort of thing, so we can definitely advise on sort of the content of your qualifications. But then also we have knowledge of, I mean, we're there to give advice, so we have knowledge of the departments that you need to speak to depending on the situation. If we don't, we will find out for you. So it's having a discussion and thinking, right, okay, so what are the issues? What do we need to do? Who do we need to speak to? So yeah, we talk to students about, I mean, obviously we're not experts in DSA or in funding, but we will speak to the relevant departments who are experts, or we'll put you in touch, or put students in touch. Things like DSA and things like that, I think it can be helpful speaking to us, because even though it's an external thing, it's Student Finance England, we can talk about the process with them. So it's quite a lengthy process, or it can be a lengthy process, and I think it's important to be honest with students about that, but also talk about what the process is, and just support them that way in terms of, I don't know, I guess it's emotional support, and it's sort of, again, structuring your qualification, so getting that support in place, and if you've got somebody who can say, okay, you've ticked that box, that's you one step closer. So yeah, we can basically have a conversation about anything and talk to any department, really.
Brilliant. Now, one thing I'd like to ask about is where the student support teams are based, and also you've mentioned Student Finance England. I'm very mindful as well of the other nations, and that they also have student support teams, which can be really, really helpful for the certain, particulars of being elsewhere, really.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's student support teams. There's one here in Milton Keynes. We're from the Manchester office. We're also in Nottingham. But there's student support teams in Scotland and in Wales and Ireland. And I think I'm sure actually the Welsh team are Welsh speaking as well.
Yes, they are.
So anything that's specific to those regions or those nations will be handled by those support teams.
Yeah.
And worldwide students will generally come to this SST
But it's
in
all
England.
allocated on your qualification, isn't it? So you were saying you're from STEM, for example. So depending on what you're studying, you'll then be put through to the people who can best help you with that sort of particular inquiry. And HJ's just put a link in the chat as well for all of the contacts that you need for tutors and student support teams, etc. Okay, what about technical issues then? Can the student support team help with things like that?
Potentially. So I'd say, I mean, depending on the technical issue, the IT help desk is always, we do get a lot of calls where we'll sort of say, oh, that's, it's a technical issue, you need to speak to the IT help desk. If they can't help, I'd say give us a call and we can have a chat about it and see what we can find out. Particular situations where we might be able to help with technical issues. So I work on computing and IT. So obviously there'll be a lot of programming, a lot of different types of software that they need to use. In the past, I mean, there might be a problem maybe with that software, and actually the IT help desk isn't set up to advise on that. So I could speak to the faculty, put them in touch with the student.
Would somebody always be speaking to you, or is it a different person depending on who's in?
It could be a different person. So depending on the situation, we could potentially, students could potentially speak to one person or different people if they need to ring in on a different day.
But it will be on their record, so someone could just pick it up and
Absolutely.
things. Now, I wanted to end because we're going to show a video of the student support team over the road, in fact, so you can see what really goes on there and meet some of the team as well. How people get in touch and when they can get in touch, and what sort of options there are as well, especially if students are abroad.
Well, we are open from 8 a.m. till 8 p.m. Monday to Friday, that's UK time, and 9 till 5 on Saturdays. You can reach us on the phone, which is 0300 303 5300, Thanks. And through the student homepage, there's lots of links. You can just send a web form in and ask us to call you, or you can put your message on it like that. Or
what's the
just
quickest way then of doing anything? Is it quicker to phone or email?
phone. You'll get straight through to an advisor who will effectively triage the call, work out what you need and get you referred through to the correct department, whether that's ourselves, senior advisors, or through to an educational advisor or a career service or whoever.
Okay, so and equally, if they don't feel comfortable speaking on the phone, then they can send an email, and then that will sort of again get triaged as well in the same way.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, that's absolutely brilliant. Well, you've filled us in on so much. There's so much more I'd like to ask you, but unfortunately we're out of time for today. But thank you so much, Emily and Dave, for coming along. It's been really good. And I hope you've enjoyed meeting some of our student support team colleagues. I'm now going to show you a video that we made over the road with the student support team in the Faculty of Law and Business. So you can take a look and see what their office is like and find out a little bit more about the sorts of things that they do over there. Then we will be back to talk about assessment with Sally and Peter, a very important part of your student journey, but one that you don't need to fear. So join me after this video to find out more.